What's going on, everyone? Welcome to the 5 O'Clock Sweats podcast. I am the host, Chris, with co-hosts Ryan and Derick. As always, we are the three main amigos. Topic tonight will be consoles, gaming consoles. We're going to discuss everything that we know and love about consoles to date. I think we'll just start it off, get right into it. Ryan, I wanted to hear, and Derick, I'm going to come your way soon as well, but I want to hear what your favorite console is to date.
Yeah, so mine is the infamous Xbox 360. I say infamous.
Icon.
Yeah,
Legend.
everyone had one of these things. And it really, like, for our generation, I mean, I think we can all agree, like, we have some of the fondest memories on that console, because that was like when, Xbox Live was hitting its stride. We were at like the perfect age, high school, middle school going into high school, and we just had so much time to game, and that was
Oof, I miss it.
yeah. I miss it a lot too. But mainly, so that's the main reason why I'm going to say the 360 is like just the core memories I have playing that console. It wasn't without its issues. It had a litany of issues, which it's been pretty well documented. I'll just name one, which was the most annoying for me, was the disc tray. I always
Wait,
had
what
my
about it?
So the Xbox, I always had my 360 vertical, or I would sit it vertically, kind of next to my
Same.
TV.
Yeah.
I think that was I'm not sure if that was the way it was meant to be, or mounted or displayed, but I always thought it looked cooler that way. But the disc tray over time, and it didn't take much time, but it would get jammed. Like, it would just not come out straight, so it would just get caught on like the rim of
On
the
air.
tray, of like the opening, the slit, whatever you want to call it. And
Not that. I wouldn't call it that.
I think that's what Phil Spencer calls it, the slit.
The slit.
Oh my god.
Yeah.
Got stuck in the slit.
Yeah.
Dude, I forgot about the disc tray thing. Like, that unlocked like a core, like, visceral memory for
Dude,
me.
I
I'm
literally
trying to wrestle
could
that
not
puppy
play
out.
games. There was like days I couldn't play because I couldn't get my damn disc tray to open. I would have to get the jaws of life out, perform open heart surgery in this thing. I would get like credit cards, debit cards. That's my mom. Like, Mom, do you have like a credit card or a driver's license I can use? Because I didn't have either back then.
Library
I didn't have either
card,
of those
dog?
things.
Gift card? Driver's license, damn.
Maybe like a gift card for my birthday or something. But just like jamming it in there, and just like I used utensils like a knife or a fork.
Flathead screwdriver.
Probably not good for something
Not
that's
good.
connected to an outlet.
Listen, it was desperate times. I just wanted to play Halo 3 Xbox Live, and it wasn't letting me. This was
That is-
keeping
in
me
there
from
already?
playing it.
I do not actually remember ever having an issue with the disc tray, but I could totally see where it would fail because it was like super wobbly, and like it just made sense. Like, a lot of consoles eventually went to like the trayless, you know what I mean? Like, you just slide the disc in, but then the fear of that was like, would it just hold your game in there forever and never let it go?
That one feels at least more like a slit. I feel like that one.
That's
for
a
sure.
slit. That's a legitimate slit.
All right.
That's
All right,
how I feel.
We're not
whenever
using
I
that word.
You're gonna bleep it out.
I'm gonna ban it. I'm gonna
All
ban
right, well,
that shit.
there'll be other words in the future. I'm sure you'll want to do the same thing with, like, heebie-jeebies.
So 360, very iconic. You were telling me, okay, so the disc tray was a problem. Do you remember any other like very widespread issues with the 360? There's one that I'm thinking of, and I know you're gonna get to it. So let's hear.
Of course. Yeah, I mean, the red rings of death, which
Oh,
just
yeah.
saying those words makes me cringe, and I get PTSD. That was basically just that was just, I don't know, it was the worst feeling. Like, stomach, just the sinking stomach feeling. Like,
Yeah.
oh, I either have to figure out a way to fix this, or I'm gonna have to beg my mom to buy me another console.
Or or you do what I did, and I had to go through like an RMA process, basically like a warranty repair process with Microsoft. And I can just tell you at that time, especially, being that age and with how many people we had gaming on a consistent basis, I was without an Xbox for like basically a month.
Oh, I think I remember
And
that.
it felt like an eternity, and it was the worst experience. And like, you just knew what you were getting back. Like, they apparently repaired it back then, but I mean, who's to say that they didn't just give you a refurbished one? That's kind of
Right.
what I'm thinking. But either way, it felt kind of sketchy. And when mine broke and I sent it out and then got it back, it broke again. Like, not too close, but like it broke again. So it wasn't really reliable. But the Red Ring of Death couldn't have been a worse failure, because there was no like rigging it. Actually, wait, Ryan, do you remember what the sort of sneaky fix was for some of them that got the Red Ring of Death?
Restarting it? No, I don't know. I have no idea.
No, it was like the most ironic thing, because from what I remember, the Red Rings of Death were basically like a cooling malfunction, and then the whole thing just overheated. And what I understood is that what you could do is you could wrap it in a towel, and just let it run in that overheated state, and like somehow by overheating it more, it like fixed the
Wow.
problem.
It's like breaking
I
a
remember a few
fever.
people did that. Yeah.
That's
So,
wild.
I mean, listen, I don't know how true that was. I've heard a few people doing it, but it's just, I feel like systems back in the day, like you could always do something kind of sketchy to just like revive it.
I'm sure you've heard this story from our friend Nick, but he basically blames me for breaking at least 3 of his Xboxes, because whenever I would be over playing, he would get the red rings. I think he went through like 3 or 4 Xbox 360s, and the rings would happen. Like, he would literally have like a brand new Xbox and play it for like a day or two, and then I would come over for like for split screen, like Gears of War or something,
the
and it
Grim
would just
Reaper.
happen. It was like I had like the opposite of the Midas touch.
Oh my God.
So I still feel bad.
So funny.
He literally blamed me. If you ask him to this day, he's like, yeah, Ryan cost me a lot of money.
That's nuts.
Yeah.
There's 3 is definitely more than a coincidence. There's definitely got to be some truth to that, even if it's a little bit. But yeah, so we have the disc tray, the Red Rings of Death. As far as I can remember, I don't really remember any other widespread like failures to the Xbox 360. Do either of you guys have any others that you were aware of?
I just had some personal stuff. Like, remember it was like what was that? A 4-sided connector for the audio and video?
Yes.
It was just
okay.
like a big fucking thing.
Yeah.
That thing, like, it was so chunky that if you like brought your Xbox 360 around enough, like, it would jiggle the port loose, and then it would never stay in there right. So you could get as many new cables as you wanted, but the port's still jacked up, and that's what happened.
Really?
To me.
I also, that was like back in the day when we had the external power supply, right? Like the big brick, and like that, and then they had like a huge plug to the back of the Xbox, and then like obviously you plugged it into the outlet, but it was like, where do you hide this thing? So I always just like dropped it behind like my dresser, and I just remember like how much dust it collected in the, I don't know, how long did we have our 360s for? It felt like 20 years. Yeah, so that's just like a clunky thing that, like, thankfully consoles have gotten to where like everything's internalized, so it's like a smaller profile and footprint, but yeah, those things took up some space.
Did your guys' Xbox 360 have like a lot of trouble reading discs? Like, it would have like a piece, like one little speck of dust on it, and it wouldn't be able to read it. I do remember, like, I had a lot of, and like, I'll be honest, I wasn't the best at taking care of my discs back then.
No.
Yeah, I mean, it's a big surprise, right? But It'd be like
Nah, I
one
was
tiny
busting.
minuscule scratch, and the 360 was like, "Nope, I don't recognize this game. What are you trying to play?" And I do remember that was also a big issue I had. Um, I don't know if maybe it was just me. That was just a me problem.
Yeah. I actually found that I borrowed Gears of War from a friend at one point, and like this looked like he took sandpaper to the bottom of the disc, right to the side that needs to be read. And surprisingly, like it would read, but I would play the campaign and it would get stuck. It would freeze, get stuck at the same exact spot.
Oh
in
my
the
God!
campaign.
Yeah, it's so funny. It's like it's
Because
That's so annoying.
I think and again, I might sound kind of dumb here, but I think like the discs, especially for the 360 games, like it actually like it was actively reading the disc as you were playing. Whereas like later on, like in more modern games, I feel like the disc is more just like an access key, whereas the game is then downloaded from the internet and then read through that way. Like I don't think games actually read from the disc so much anymore. But what's interesting is the biggest like problem was the fact that like I could play it, and I almost wished like it wouldn't let me play it because it was just like such a mind fuck every time, because I'm like, maybe I'll get past this spot, and then like everything's going well, and then just stuck every time. And I just kept trying, but it obviously never changed. But no, I didn't have that
soul
problem.
crushing.
It kind of had the opposite problem where I like thought it shouldn't read a game, but it did, but kind of partially. So kind of weird, but yeah, maybe that was a sensor problem. Like your shit was just too dirty.
Maybe. I mean, listen, I don't really believe. I didn't believe in dusting back then, so
No.
it's
I mean,
definitely possible.
nobody did, and I wouldn't expect you to. But like, I think the 360 did suffer a lot from like dust and overheating issues. If I remember the one accessory, and we can kind of talk about accessories too, but the one accessory was like you said, to have a vertical orientation for the console, but it was basically like a fan and a stand that it sat on.
Yep, 100% had that.
Yeah,
and it even had the side holster for the
Yes.
Xbox remote.
Boom.
You remember the remote?
Boom.
Yeah,
But the
I
problem
do.
with that
Yeah.
is I think it was like basically like it came out that it was just screwing everybody's 360s up because it was just blowing dirty air like and clogging that shit. Like, because I also had the one where it was like a cooler for the back, and then there was even like a hole for the power supply to go through that too. Because if
think
you
I had
remember
that
the
one.
power supply, like the way it hooked up to the back of the 360, the thing was like this wide, and it was just like, I don't know, it was chunky.
Not
But,
a good
yeah,
sign
so
when you get the cell fan for your
some
console.
weird third party like accessories that seemed great, but like were probably breaking our Xboxes in actuality.
Back then, I didn't know any better. I'm
no,
like, all right,
no.
sick, cooling fan.
Exactly.
Put that boy on there. Boot up Viva Pinata.
Ooh. So let's
okay.
talk accessories a little bit, because I feel like, Derick, you were talking about the controller. Tell us a little bit about what you thought of the 360 controller. I think it's very iconic.
I think it is iconic, right? Even I can like picture the colors of the buttons like arranged in my mind
Oh, yeah.
when I think of like a generic video game controller icon that you would see as like a placeholder on a website. It's the Xbox controller. I think one of the biggest things about the Xbox controller, because I grew up playing PlayStation, so that's like dual sticks in the same position. But with the Xbox, you get the thumbstick on the high left-hand side.
Yes.
And I really liked that change.
I also like the difference between the 360, or excuse me, just Xbox in general, right? Because you can go through all the iterations of Xbox and PlayStation, and the sticks are essentially the same or similar. But I always liked the concave of the Xbox sticks versus the kind of like dome or round top of like the PlayStation joysticks. Now, whether or not, I don't know what is necessarily, is there something that's objectively better? I don't know. But comfort-wise, I always kind of felt like the concave was better for me, especially in like shooters. I felt like I could aim a bit better because I had more control. I wasn't like slipping off the sticks as much as I would on like PlayStation.
Yeah, like the geometry of the dome is like, if your thumb's on top of it and you're not like pushing the edge of it, you're just always slipping off of it.
Yeah.
That's just how circles work.
Yeah. Yeah. We don't, well, you know. That's another conversation. We'll talk about shapes. Ryan, what about you? What are your thoughts on specifically the 360 controller?
Yeah, I mean it's an iconic design. It works. I mean, Xbox went from the Duke, the giant tank. I can't even, like, to this day I still can't hold it comfortably and press all the buttons as I should. So they really nailed it with the second design. You know, I can comfortably shoot, jump, reload, throw a grenade, all that stuff, you know, and not having to move my hands in any weird way. So I do agree that the 360 controller was, you know, the design wise was pretty perfect and a huge upgrade from what they had originally. I think Xbox in general does a great job with their controllers. Like I honestly, my favorite controller is probably like the current Xbox, you know, Series S or X controller. They're so, I mean, they just fit well in the hand. They're so nice. But I'm also just an Xbox boy, so that's really all I've known over the years.
Team Green. Yeah, I would say the only downside I found of like the 360 controller was it felt a bit like slow and clunky. We didn't know it at the time, but like now having played with, like, you know, some of the newer generation controllers, they're definitely, like, the sticks were a little bit too big. Like the face of the joystick, it was a little too big. You can tell, like, in the Xbox One controller, they made the sticks a little bit smaller, which at first was like, I was like, oh, I don't know if I like this, but it is better. And then the triggers felt like it was a long trigger pull.
Yeah, I was gonna say the same thing.
Yeah. It didn't seem like it felt very conducive to like racing games, right? Because you could really kind of control the throttle a bit more, but it felt a bit not off. Like I said, I never noticed this until the new controllers, but looking back, it kind of felt off the sense that, like, when you were shooting, like, you know, to have a long trigger pull is not good. Obviously, a lot of like the Elite controllers, you can change that, and I have it to the shortest setting where, like, I barely have to pull the trigger and it registers. So, you know, those were the only gripes. I do think we had a lot of issues with the bumpers breaking, RB and LB. That happened on a lot of my controllers. No matter what, when you dropped it, I swear it always went right onto the bumper. And like I just remember I had a broken, I don't know, I guess it was LB LB. So I could, like, in Call of Duty, I could, like, never throw like a tactical grenade. Like I couldn't throw my, you know, stuns or something unless I clicked it in like a really wonky way. But yeah, it just kind of funny memories there with the controllers. But yeah, I think we overlook that a lot. So, you know, hopefully throughout the rest of the episode, I'd love to comment when we talk about different consoles. I'd love to talk about the controller or the, you know, like the main peripherals. Any other comments for the 360? Go ahead.
Yeah, so just one more thing with the 360 controller. Like, that was really the first time that, I mean, at least for me, I had, like, the ability to have a wireless controller when they
I was gonna say the same
released
thing.
the battery pack.
Yeah, good point.
It also had its issues because that battery pack was so finicky. Like, it would be off just by a little bit, and I would be playing in the middle of a game and it would just disconnect my controller randomly. I'm like, what's wrong with this thing? And it looks fine. Just like if it's a little bit, if the battery's just a little loose. So I actually, most of the times I would just be hardwired into my Xbox. I was like, I can't do this. This is ridiculous. But the concept was cool. Like, I remember the first time, like, I literally, like, stood on the opposite end of my room, like, as far as I could from the Xbox. Like, oh, this is so cool. I could walk around and play. Now, I mean, now that's just common wherever. And there's really no input lag or anything like that with most consoles and controllers nowadays. But yeah, back then, that battery pack, between the battery pack and the disc tray, I don't know which pissed me off more. Probably the disc tray, because I just couldn't play it all. At least with the controller, I could at least plug it in if I had to.
I would say, if you look at the controllers, like amongst probably almost all consoles, I would say, aside from the size of the OG Xbox controller, I think in terms of sheer weight, the 360 had to have been the heaviest controller that I had ever played with. And part of that is the fact that like you had to use like 9 like D batteries basically to power that son of a bitch, and like it would eat through them. And then like you said, Ryan, you had I think it was called the plug and play kit, something like that.
Yeah,
a little
to charge
square
it.
connector you pop into the top.
Exactly. And then I remember there were rechargeable battery packs. Actually, Xbox had its own little like dock with the 2 little battery packs you could do. Mm-hmm. That was pretty good. Those didn't seem as heavy, but like when you put your AAA batteries in, it did seem pretty heavy. But I agree that shit would just like fall out, and it was like great idea, but like hadn't been refined yet, as far as I could tell.
Speaking of great idea that wasn't refined, I think we talked about this in the last episode. The ear clip mic.
Oh my gosh.
The one that looked like a, early 2000s era, like Bluetooth for a phone.
Yeah.
That was the worst thing I've ever used, but I used it all the time.
Oh yeah. I did too.
100%.
Dude,
not only
the battery sucked, the microphone sucked, the ear clip sucked.
Well,
I remember my ear would get hot because I would have to keep jamming it into the slit.
The slit.
So it was like an earpiece, right? And then like this very strange little rubber like ring that you kind of just like fit on your ear. Like it didn't actually like fit on your ear, and it started to hurt my ear. But the microphone was like this long. So like it's like there's like so much space between that and your mouth. And this is not a time when like microphones were very good, especially like in the gaming space. So it was like, I don't even know what the benefit was. I guess you looked like a CEO and a gamer at the same time. Maybe that. I don't know.
It's called looking like a douchebag.
Yeah.
And I did that all the time.
Just another fucking thing to charge, too. Like, I would be mid-gaming session and be like, doo-doo-doo-doo.
Oh my God.
I don't know if that was turning...
in your ear, like while you're playing. It's like, oh, gotta charge this thing.
Yeah. So, I don't know. Probably was a piece of shit, but I liked it because it kept me from, what was the alternative? That little thin, like dental floss wire with the little, the U, but it was like one little ear muff, and it was honestly, basically, the phone so would always turn different colors after like time. It would just get like gross.
Yeah, but it was still so much better, like practically and functionally wise, it would just work. I mean, sound quality and whatnot was so much better.
Yeah, but it was basically like you're learning how to do like, some kind of computer program on like a Dell. And like that's the same headset you were wearing as that crappy thing. Like, or you're answering calls at like, I don't know, some like call center, and you're like, doing returns and exchanges and shit. I don't know. I hated that thing, so I went right to the wireless one, but back then everything was janky, so we didn't know. Speaking of which, I think we can't talk about the 360 and not acknowledge that it was like the beginning of like legitimately like functional mainstream online gaming, right? Like other consoles had the connectivity, but I don't think any of them nailed it like Xbox 360 did with Xbox Live.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I even remember what it was like back then and what it's like now, right? I remember getting the Xbox Gold Pass.
Oh, yeah.
Like voucher cards for however many months.
Gold was like basically like you could play online. There was like silver, but I don't know what that was.
Yeah, I don't know what you could even do with that.
I do remember you press the center button and like I can like literally hear it to this day. Like the big tile pops up. And remember you could go like left and right between the tiles and you could play like music. Like we thought it was so cool to have music on your
music
Xbox
was green, right?
But yeah, and then like the party system, I mean, it just felt clean. And I know at the time, what was out? The PlayStation 3? That was like the competitor to that. Like,
yeah.
Ryan, you had a PS3. Derek, I don't know if you did. I did not, but it did have like the PSN, right? PlayStation Network, but it just wasn't quite what Xbox Live was, as far as I remember.
Right.
Yeah, I feel like that launched late. Like I think Xbox Live, came out first and was such a big success. I mean, I don't know for sure, but I don't remember PlayStation having online functionality, at least around the time that Xbox Live was out. I don't think it was competing at the time.
It definitely was not competing. And, to be honest, if it wasn't for like the online, I I guess like ecosystem or just like the online system in general that Xbox 360 had, like I might have been more like a PlayStation 3 guy because I had like a PS2 for like 45 years, I felt like. So I only jumped to Xbox because I remember like Ryan, you guys, like all of our friends had that. And like that was like if you want to play COD and Gears online, like you got to get a 360.
You know, that was the console to have back
It was.
then.
It was. They had the flagship games too. Like the games were better, if I remember correctly.
Yeah, run through some. Let's hear them. We gotta tap on a few of these here.
Well, I mean, obviously Halo 3 was huge. I mean, that's
Dude, that game was so good for like little socially awkward 14-year-old me, like trying to socialize with kids I just met in high school. Like, hey, you play Halo 3?
Yeah. Oh yeah, dude, that was part of it too. Like in the lunchroom, we would talk about this, but like we wouldn't be caught in the hallway, right? Oh, that was great. So, all right, so Halo 3, I can certainly say like basically what got me to buy a 360 was Call of Duty 4 Modern Warfare, right? The online play in that, like basically unrivaled to this day.
But was that
played the shit out of that?
Was that an Xbox exclusive? Or that was back then?
I do not actually know the answer to that question.
I know
don't know the answer to that
I
question.
feel like COD's been on PlayStation for a while now, but I don't know if it was back in like 2007.
Yeah, it might not have been.
It looks like it was on the PS3.
Yeah, but I just wonder,
but it didn't
like,
have
with
the
their
online.
So I mean, it had to at some point. I just don't know if it, again, those were times where like, you didn't even think about the other system. Like we all play on Xbox. Like I didn't even, know what the hell was going on with PlayStation. But so Call of Duty, Halo 3, Derick, do you have a game that kind of comes to mind when you think about the 360?
Yeah, I mean, I'm looking at a list of some of these. Elder Scrolls 4 Oblivion. I remember playing hours of that. Fallout 3, again, hours.
Huge.
What else? I see Mass Effect and Assassin's Creed 2.
Yeah, dude. Back
Assassin's Creed, yes.
Assassin's Creed and Mass Effect though, low key might be a top 3 gaming trilogy of all time. It's on the Mount Rushmore, I think.
Good.
It's fantastic.
My brother-in-law plays through all 3 of them every year.
That's good. I like that. That's like a kind of like a nice little like tradition.
It's like me with Lord of the Rings.
You know what? I like wish I still had my 360 now that we're talking about it. But all right, and I would also say, were there like, oh yeah, well here we go. We can't ignore Gears of War. I mean, my gosh,
no.
How many fights? Like, I mean, you're talking about like teen boys fighting, like, and like competing to get into like a party in a lobby and like
fighting for host.
I don't know. That was host shoddy. Gosh.
It was like winner gets host, basically.
Oh my god, dude! I remember like actually having like social like similar feelings to like going into a social setting. Like I felt the same things like in Xbox parties, like like pissed when somebody would join, or like kind of intimidating when somebody else would join, or like you know what I mean? Like I don't know, like just it like mirrored our social growth, just like at that point in our life. So I think Xbox Live in general was just amazing. But yeah, we developed some thick skin in a lot of those games, not just from us, but obviously we know, a lot of the random chat, especially like the pre-game lobbies, which I feel like they like all games now just got rid of that because it's anymore. So toxic.
I can't think of a game that has a pre-game lobby anymore.
Yeah, me neither.
I mean, there might be one out there. I mean, I guess the closest thing is proximity chat, but a lot of games don't even have that anymore.
Which is toxic, but the encounters are like very fast. Where like you were like the pregame lobby, especially then, we're talking like probably not the best servers and stuff. I mean, I swear we were in that shit for like an hour, and like you would just like it would be the crappiest mic quality, and just this guy just roasted somebody.
Dude, it'd be no better feeling than like some kid talking shit and talking so much shit. And then just whipping, they're just like kicking their ass. So like the best feeling in the world. I like like go downstairs. I'd sleep really well.
Dude, I remember too, like you would like in Gears, if you like somebody pissed you off, you'd like you remember you could do like voice messages too?
Yeah.
Like it wasn't just typing it out, it was like
voice
yeah.
you could leave a voice message like, yo, motherfucker, 1v1 me, bro. Like and we would actually do like sniper battles in Gears
mics
and
were
like
so bad
legitimately
back
like
then.
settle beef with
Oh my
like just
God.
2 long shots on gridlock.
I forgot about
Or
voice
canals.
messages. Oh
Yeah.
man.
There's just like features that were like you could tell it was so early because like developers didn't even realize how these things could be abused so bad, and they're like, oh well, they're gonna be impressed by this, and like they just thought everyone like that gamed online would be just so nice and innocent, but it's like I think they realized they had to dial things back because obviously people are gonna take it too far. But yeah, some core memories unlocked. Talking about the 360, I do think we should move on to the next console. Derick, I'm going to kind of toss it your way. What do you think would be your favorite? And let's kind of hash it out a little bit. I want to talk about it.
Yeah. So, as many hours as I, dumped into playing Xbox Live in high school, I think the PlayStation 2 still takes the crown for me. I think that it was super geared towards like single player role playing games, stuff like that. And I had an older sister, 4 years older than me, absolutely not at all interested in interacting with me at all. So I'm like, all right, I got to find something to do. And there she was, the PS2. I think
There she was.
maybe not a ton of accessory talk on this one. I don't even know if I had any.
Oh, I got a few for you.
Yeah, that I think PS2 takes the crown for me.
I 100% agree. Can you remember when/where you got your PS2?
No.
Dude, see, for me, it's like such a vivid memory. So for me, I remember it was after like, it was like the last day or so of like, I think 3rd grade, right? And I had been wanting a PS2. A friend down the street got one. So you know how that works, right? It's like the domino effect.
Yep.
I basically was like begging and begging and begging. And long story short, yeah, we went out to a Best Buy and like, oh my God, like I can't think of like too many feelings that were better than that. Like just knowing you're going out to, first of all, Best Buy back then was like, it was like the most amazing place to go as a kid.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So you roll in there and like, you know what I mean? You're just like, I want this and I want that game. And like my parents are like, all right, whatever. You did good in school. I mean, 3rd grade, how freaking hard could it have been? But yeah, and then like I just remember going home, like firing it up. And my first game was High Heat Baseball 2003. Kurt Schilling is on the cover.
Oh my God.
Dude, it was incredible because I had a N64. So, the jump from that to PS2 graphics, it was like, holy shit, this is like so real.
Yeah. Unbelievable jump.
I'm in the field.
Incredible. Ryan, did you ever have a PS2?
I did. Yeah, I had a PlayStation 2. So I wasn't as much of a PlayStation fanboy. I didn't play a lot of like PlayStation exclusives. Like I dabbled in Kingdom Hearts a little bit when that first came out.
Okay.
But I honestly, the games I played the most were probably the Dragon Ball Z Budokai games.
I forgot about those.
Yeah, and I'm pretty sure
Hell yeah.
those were PlayStation exclusives back then. I think. But I played
I'd believe
Budokai.
it.
I think, yeah. I mean, I'm a huge Dragon Ball Z fan, but those fighting games were awesome. Budokai 1, 2, and then Tenkaichi 3 and whatnot. I mean, those games were amazing. I played so much of those games. I guess the other game would be like GTA.
Yeah.
San
That was a big
Andreas.
reason. Yeah.
Or like, what was the other one?
Vice
There were a
City,
couple.
right?
Vice City. That's the one that I played the most, and I'd be
The
like,
one.
I'd be looking up like the cheats and whatnot on whatever that website was, and doing all the button combos and like calling in like
GameFAQs.com.
calling in like jets and tanks and stuff and
It
wreaking
was,
havoc.
I think it was like Cheat Planet or like something
Yeah, it was,
like that.
it
Like,
was Cheap Planet. Is
dude,
that still up? Did we look that up?
no way. Oh, well, maybe it's up, but it definitely is not a thing.
Cheap Planet.
Derek, what was
Yes.
your, like, do you have a number one game for the PS2? Like, of the ones we've discussed, or like something?
So I think for me, it's a toss up between two of them, and they're both like RPG games. So it's either Kingdom Hearts or Final Fantasy X.
Yeah.
Now, Kingdom Hearts, that was something I wanted all on my own. Like, I saw the game, knew I wanted it, got it, played it, loved it. Final Fantasy X was one that my sister wanted. She's like, all right, we've got a PS2. I might as well play something. And she got that game. And me, being 4 years younger, I'm like, oh, okay, I'll play it too. And obviously ended up loving it. Final Fantasy X was fantastic.
I think I'll say for me, the PS2 was like it was like a sports era for me, because that was like the prime of me as a kid playing sports. So I would definitely say there's like an iconic series of games that just don't exist anymore. So one I would say was, it was NFL Street. Okay. That was one. Ryan, I think you had to have played that.
Honestly, like I didn't. I mean, I maybe played it once or twice at someone's house, but I didn't own it. I played NBA Street a little bit.
So it was EA Big. So they were putting out some crazy games. I think they actually did like SSX too, like a snowboarding game. But the other one would be like NBA Street, Volume 1, 2, and 3. It was like it was a time where like over the top, like overdone sports games were like huge. Like even like if you remember like Midway games like NFL Blitz. There was MLB
NBA Hoops.
MLB Slugfest, where you could literally, I remember like you would get to like the base and you could start punching the base runner.
Oh my god, I forgot about that.
Or you could punch the guy who had the baseball, and like he would fumble the ball, and then you would just take off, and then you would slide with your cleats up, like just crazy stuff.
I need a
crazy stuff. Like, but what I miss about those days is like they made games just for them to be fun, and like that was it. And I feel like we definitely we've lost a lot of that fun innocence factor, even though knocking people out on a baseball field is not very innocent. But yeah, so for me, I think it's definitely like the sports games, and then like Need for Speed Underground and Underground 2, those were big ones. I was like oddly into like cars then. I guess the Fast and the Furious was on my brain.
Oh yeah, Midnight Club 3 Dub Edition.
Yeah,
I
good
remember
one.
Driving that, yeah.
Good one. And then Ryan, like you said, it was so cool because back then you could really just take a game and like after you played the hell out of it, then it's like, what do you do now? Oh, well, you go and you print out. You don't download, you print out a crumbly piece of paper of cheat codes. And like now you just unlocked like so much more for the game that you didn't have. And of course, Tony Hawk games. I don't think we can talk about early consoles without talking about like the dynasty that was Tony Hawk, Pro Skater.
Just Pro Skater 4 was the first one that I ever played. That absolutely influenced my music taste. Like,
oh God, so good.
How long has it been since then? Like 20?
So good, so good.
Don't want to do that math.
Or it started to get a little bit more like narrative driven, and it was Tony Hawk Underground 2, or Thug as we called them.
Was it American Wasteland?
Yep. Project 8, I think, was one. Yeah. Oh God, so good, so good. Take me back. But okay, so PS2. We definitely hashed out some great games. We kind of talked about.
Ooh, there's one more category of games that I gotta shout out real quick.
Go for
it. The buddy game. So Ratchet and Clank.
Ooh.
Jack and Daxter.
Oh.
Yeah, you remember these guys? You remember those friends?
Dude, I'm tripping right now. Like I literally I should have looked it up, but I was just coming off the top of the head there. But yeah, Jack and Daxter. It was it
Sly
Jack?
Cooper. Sly Cooper was the last one that I have to mention. Otherwise, I'll be mad at myself.
Yeah. Oh my God. So wait, Jack and Daxter is Naughty Dog, right? I think Naughty Dog made that.
Sounds right. That sounds
and
right.
It was like
Naughty Dog.
It was like sort of open world, right? But like obviously like the standards of like the early 2000s open world. And it felt good because it wasn't totally like a linear, like mission to mission kind of thing. I think I had Jack 2, and that was the one where you could get like that little like hoverboard. And I was like so stoked on that thing.
That
just
was
like
so
zipping
fun. I would
around.
just ride around like for hours. Just
Crazy
trying to
fun.
act cool.
Crazy fun. All right. Were there any? Go ahead, Ryan. I'm sorry.
Well,
you were gonna say something.
I don't know. I wish I could go back in time and play more PlayStation exclusives because there's so many great ones. I think unfortunately for me, like I got exposed to like the competitive Xbox scene at too young or too early, and like I just became addicted to that. Like if it wasn't like competitive, like I played single player driven, like story driven games on Xbox, but like there's so many on PlayStation. Just looking at the list here, like I wish I had played the Metal Gear Solid series. Wish I had played the God of War series. Kept up with Kingdom Hearts because I started Kingdom Hearts 1 and I really liked it, and I just stopped playing it for some reason. I don't really remember why. I was just dumb. And then like Jack and Clank. I played those games a little bit. Spyro. I played some Spyro as well.
Yes, sir.
They
just remastered that recently.
I saw that. Yeah.
It's very good.
Didn't they remastered Ratchet and Clank as well?
Did they? I'd believe it, but
I think they did.
I think that flew under my radar.
Yeah, I wish I could go back in time and play more of those games.
I think that is probably something that still holds true to today, where when you look at Xbox, they seem very multiplayer focused versus, PlayStation, who still, just absolutely hammers out top tier, just like story driven single player games. And, unfortunately, they're PlayStation exclusives, which I will say this though, having in the last few years, built a gaming PC, there's a lot of ports, like PC ports that are coming over from the PlayStation games. I will say this though, they're not doing too hot at the moment. A lot of them suffer from like really bad performance issues.
They're never
but
good.
The option is there. So it is kind of like, unfortunately, I think still something that plagues Xbox is, they haven't really come out with a lot of like, top tier story driven games. So, hopefully that changes in the future. But let's talk in terms of PS2. Were there any, like, you know what I mean? Like have to have accessories, or were there any like problems or issues that we like used to have with our PS2s that we can remember?
I for sure had a faulty disc tray on that one. it would come out and like a centimeter and then sound like it was struggling and then slowly inch all the way out. And once it was all the way extended, it would just shoot all the way back in. So you would have to wait for it to come out and then get the disc, put the other disc back in before it shot itself back in.
Yeah, that was that tray was definitely janky. It was pretty slow from what I remember, and I think I don't remember any overheating issues back then. I just feel like those consoles were bricks, and they probably didn't even produce any heat whatsoever. But I do remember, I think one of the issues with the PS2 that I had, it was still an era where like games would freeze, you know what I mean? Or of course, I think not so much an issue with the console itself, but those damn controller wires. Did you guys ever wrap your wires up and like it would get all twisty and shit?
Yeah. I never knew how bad that was for them back then.
Yeah.
Even after like the first one snapped out of the top of the controller. I'm like, oh yeah, I guess that makes sense.
And then
Idiot.
The other thing too is it's not really like, it wasn't like an issue or like a malfunction, but it was more just like kind of like, I guess, a quality of life thing. But the damn memory cards, like what a true
forgot about those.
Pain in the ass / kind of innovative thing, because you could take those to like a friend's house, which we would do. And like you bring the game, or they might just have the game already, and like you just plug in your memory card and now you got like your saves, versus, whatever saves they had. But I just hated filling up those things. And it was like, you're just constantly getting more cards. And then you're like, which card is this? I don't know. And I got to plug it in. I got to plug all of them in and see what the hell's on this.
Dude, that's wild. And they were like, what, 8 megabytes or something like that. So if you're watching the video version of this podcast, the background that we have on all three of us, you can fit, what is that? 16 of those backgrounds on that memory card. And that's it. And
So
you can
many.
have, multiple saves of multiple games on those cards.
Yep.
And I don't know how they did it. Absolute, like data magicians over there.
Relatively speaking, they were like still pretty big. Like, I don't remember the exact size, but they were like decently sized cards for like literally having absolutely no storage on them. Obviously, that's part of just technology advancing, but I just think that's a funny, how many people probably don't even remember or have never gamed and needed a memory card or know what it's like to be like, oh shit, like I just got this new game, but like now I gotta delete another save.
One of my precious saves.
Exactly. Like which game do I not care about, or like which save is it? And then like you delete the good save and you leave the bad one and it's gone forever.
Yeah, that's how I feel with the Series S today.
Well,
Although I got the hard drive, so it's not a problem anymore. But when I first got it, it was.
Yeah, I mean it's a problem now only because like games are so big, and like I just think it's a sin that they could ship any console with like a 500 gig hard drive. Like anything under a terabyte to me just is like unacceptable. In this day and age, I just can't see that. But so PS2, I think kind of a testament to its durability is like I can't even really come up with like a well-known like fault. And I'm sure there might be some, but none that I experienced. And I ran that thing like forever, like all day long.
Yeah, I ran mine into the ground. Absolutely.
I feel like
just a great system.
My PlayStation 2, I feel like every time I put a disc in, it was like putting it, not initially, but over time, it was like putting it through a shredder. Like I would take the disc out and it would be like, it would have all these scratches on it. Like it was just in the console. Like this is how it's supposed to perform. And I would just take out the disc.
Well, did you sit it up?
No, I had it flat because I felt like that made more sense. Like it
did.
Yeah,
I think there were actual like problems if you oriented it like vertically. I want to say like the disc inside of the console like was more prone to being like scratched because it was probably leaning some way it wasn't supposed to be.
Yeah, that's funny because it even had the swivelable PlayStation logo on the disc tray.
Yeah. Which again, like, I don't know. I never stood my consoles up, but that could just be me. Okay, so we had Xbox 360, GOAT, PS2, GOATed.
What you got for us?
So listen, I will say my favorite is the 360, but I think it's time to bring up a console that I'm going to say was, in my opinion, the most innovative console that I've seen, at least in my lifetime. New console, that is. And also one of the first ones where I found it hard to actually get. At least at the time when I got it. And that is the Nintendo Wii. Gotta talk about the Wii.
The Wii.
There's a lot to say. I think overall, right? I mean, you had the perks of like, I had all the great Nintendo exclusive IPs, right? So you got all that, but damn, I mean, they must have made zillions off of just freaking peripherals and accessories. Like I've never owned a console still to this day that had so many freaking things you could buy and things that like you almost had to buy. Like I felt like it was a giant money pit.
Yeah.
The Wii was.
Yeah. I can't even remember
nunchucks,
all of them.
All the grips and the cases for the controllers.
Yeah.
So many grips.
I forgot about those.
Then there was like different controllers. There was like more of like a paddle one, like kind of like an NES.
Like a steering wheel.
The steering wheel. Yeah, the wheel where you put the actual Wii remote in the wheel.
Do you guys have Wii Fit?
Yeah, of
Do you
course.
remember that one? The balance board.
There you go, right? So a balance board. And then there were some games that actually, like had Shaun White snowboarding, that actually tapped into the balance board.
Yeah.
You could use that kind of as the snowboard. So kind of cool. But then you had like Guitar Hero, right? Now I got a freaking plastic guitar sitting around.
Yeah, that you plug the Wiimote into, right?
Yeah. I had a basket of like Wii shit, like all the stuff you just throw into this basket because it's
So
like
did
what
I.
other console had this much stuff? But like they were making bank off that for sure. Probably made more money off that than game sales and console sales. But so what do we think about the Wii though? Obviously, you know, as is kind of par with Nintendo even to this day. Hardware wise, not the most advanced, right? Not going to give you the best graphics, the best frame rate, whatever it might be. The visuals are never the best compared to, you know, the counterparts, which would be, you know, the Xbox and the PlayStation. But what do you guys think the Wii did right, or what did they innovate on, you know, at the time?
They absolutely nailed the like the casual party like aspect with,
Yeah.
Wii Sports is what I think of first. I think we all kind of think of Wii Sports first. The amount of hours I put into Wii Tennis, it was the first time gaming where I was like, I'm sweating. Like I'm used to sitting on my bed or on a couch, just sitting there, full potato mode. But you know, I'm playing Wii Tennis.
Full
I'm
potato.
I'm moving back and forth. Like I'm not actually playing. Like I don't have to be doing that, but like I feel like I should be because you know I'm into the game, and I would be like,
Yeah, you weren't one of the guys that cheesed it by just waving the thing back and forth.
Yeah, like
man, come on.
I could have just sat down and did that, but you know I wanted to win, and
it's less accurate that way.
you know, I feel bad for whoever was playing me and like standing next to me. Like I would be like running into them, like bumping into them, like hitting elbows, like you're in my space, man. I need my space.
Yeah, but you remember that like there were like so many news articles coming out about people going like way too hard, like and like breaking their TVs or like knocking people out with the Wii remote.
Yeah.
Like you, and then you were like either like were you badass and you didn't put the strap on, or were you like. Or were you like a real like safety guy? Like, you know, did you put the strap on and then did you like cinch it up and then do the clip, right? There were like different steps.
I was definitely
You
like
know?
a loose strap guy, but I would say the Wii strap is the equivalent to wearing your seatbelt when you're driving. Like it's just
No,
Well,
expand on
it can
that.
be just
Expand
as
on that.
dangerous. I don't have to. I think we all know. They're equally as
So-
For shame.
important. Equally as important.
I remember, I think at some point what was happening is Nintendo, and I don't know if it was a lawsuit or what it was, but there were like so many incidents happening with the Wii remote just coming out of people's hands or whatever that they actually, you could go on their website, and I did this, and you could get, they would send you like free cases. They had like a case for the remote, like a rubber grip case, with like a bumper kind of on it. And it was kind of like, I think like their way of like dealing with the problem is like, hey, we'll give you a free case because I guess people were just like, it was slipping out of their hands
why?
or
'Cause they're all
whatever.
sweating.
They're
their
5
hands are all
o'clock
sweating.
sweats, bro.
Yeah, it's slipping right out.
Yeah. So the Wii remote is iconic.
So good.
Looking back though, it looks like absolute shit. And like the fact that like I had to plug this little bar in and like rest it on my TV or whatever, like janky, but at the time definitely innovative.
It was pretty responsive.
Oh, it was very
What I
responsive.
remember.
And I think what
Yeah,
was
it
so
was
cool
very
about
good.
the Wii is that like it was like the only game, or excuse me, the only console I've ever owned where like the free game that comes with the console is the best game that exists for that
so
console.
good.
Right? Like
Yeah.
Wii Sports. And
Oh yeah.
I mean, I don't know. I don't even know. Like, you could honestly own a Wii and just play that game, and like I would have probably been just as content. Like that's all I needed.
In fact, that's how I feel. I feel like I didn't play any other game. Like I can't think of another game that I played.
On the
Because
Wii, that
Sports
was
just is so large in my
I-
mind.
I kind of want to buy a Wii and have like a Wii.
Dude,
park.
I still have it.
Don't
Well,
do it.
I know my parents have it. The thing is
Oh, Super Smash
they-
Brothers Brawl.
the
Yeah.
the Wii was great. It had a lot of good games, but it's like they tried to port over like certain games that just didn't do, like a lot of like the EA Sports games. Like, why are we trying to do that? Like, we don't need Madden on the Wii. We don't need Call of Duty on the Wii. Like, I'm sorry. Like, I just don't think we do. But you know, I remember Guitar Hero was huge on the Wii. Trying to think.
Yeah, with the,
What
with the
are-
white
Wait, let's talk
Les
about
Paul
Guitar Hero for a
controller.
second because we can talk about Guitar Hero for a couple minutes here. I feel like
We could talk about it for like probably an entire episode. I love Guitar Hero.
I
But go
grinded
ahead.
so many hours on Guitar Hero. And I wasn't good either, but I mean, I would get like Mr. or When You Were Young by the Killers on hard. That was the one song I could do perfect
Hard?
on hard.
Oh my god!
Because
dude.
I just
You can't even
repetition and repetition, practice made perfect, and I spent hours perfecting that. That was really the only song I could do on perfect on hard. Normal I could do a few, but hard I was
Derick,
proud of that.
did you play Guitar Hero, Derick?
Oh yeah, I played Guitar Hero. Was it 2 or 3?
I think it was
Or
3.
both of them.
3
3
was
was the big
Legends of
one.
Rock. Yeah,
I think 3 was
3
the
was
big
like
one.
classic music, like so it's just some great like 70s rock songs. And I feel like that was probably like one of those games where like you really felt the time that you put into it, like you could see it pay off.
Yeah.
And like obviously I started at like, yo, what is this game? I'm looking at what I'm doing, and then like within like, you know, a couple weeks, like I was playing on expert.
Yeah, you're
And-
sliding up to that orange
Yeah.
one. Yeah.
Yeah, like you're just nuts. And like I don't know, it was amazing. I've probably not had too many better gaming experiences. It was just like a different time. Like I just don't think that and like Rock Band, I don't even know if those could be successful anymore.
Yeah, and Rock Band was so good. Because you had so many more different things. It wasn't just guitar now. Now it's bass, which is basically guitar.
Yeah.
And then
Group.
drums and vocals.
Vocals. The vocals were a little janky because I think
They
it
were.
only measured the pitch. So you could just kind of like, you could just squeal or you could go low. Like, yeah, you could just follow it and you'd be good. But yeah, great times. Games that I just think, obviously they were just fun. They took up a ton of space though. Again, like you had like a full drum kit practically. And then I actually played, this was for the 360, but kind of in the same group there. And I think it was made by the Guitar Hero people, but DJ Hero.
Oh, yeah.
DJ Hero, you had a little like a little turntable with like a little like kind of mixer thing, and it was a freaking vibe, dude.
Dude, I could
wanted
see
to
you
play
playing
that so
I could
bad.
totally see you playing
Never have.
Yeah, I was crazy into it, but I think it was a really niche. Like it didn't pop off like Guitar Hero did because it's just not as mainstream. But yeah, the Wii, I don't know. What else can you say? Wii Sports Resort. That was like an expansion to Wii Sports.
Oh, yeah, that had
And
like the sword fighting and archery and everything, right?
archery was so good. God, it had like kayaking. It had the 3-point shootout. That was amazing.
that.
My favorite thing.
Mm-hmm.
But again, like everyone eventually learned, like the Wii remote was pretty finicky, not finicky, but kind of gimmicky, where you could just do this with everything, like could just kind of shake it in different directions, and it would do like, you know what I mean? It like, you know, at the beginning everyone was like, you know, swinging it like a real racket, and then eventually you realize like the more you swing it, it doesn't really register that well sometimes, so you might as well just kind of like flick it.
It's like people cheesing their steps on their Apple Watch or whatever watch
Yeah,
they're using their
yeah.
Fitbit.
Did we did all of us have a Wii? Like okay.
Yeah.
Because it was
Yeah,
one of those consoles where like you could get by and without really owning it, you know, because to me it wasn't like play by yourself as much. It was like you said, Ryan, like I think they nailed the like they took the idea of like couch co-op and they like basically like they got you off the couch, but they still had, you know, co-op and like party games.
Yeah.
You know, like Mario Party was on the Wii, right?
Yeah,
Like, I think
they had Mario on there.
Yeah, and then Mario Kart, obviously. It's so funny. I feel
WarioWare.
like all I can think about is Wii Sports.
Super Mario Sluggers. Damn, I forgot
that's
about that.
good.
And then the
then
soccer one that they had, Strikers, right?
Strikers, yeah. Oddly enough, I played The Godfather on the Wii,
Oh, it's so funny. I think
which
I
was
played
a
That does
brutal.
not seem
Wait, did I
like
play
it would be
Godfather?
on the Wii.
It doesn't. Well, it was janky. It looked like Play-Doh, basically, but it was so intuitive because, like, you would walk up to, like, a business and you'd go to, like, extort them and you would, like, flick the remote to, like, kick in the door. And then, like, it's a little graphic, but, like, you know, you like, choke people out. And so, you take the nunchucks and you start doing like this. And you would literally just, like, take people out. It was nuts.
It's like you're actually
What
doing
It was
the heck?
that.
nuts.
So
Yeah,
so
yeah, exactly. It
immersive.
made me feel like I was in The Godfather. No, I mean, I guess at the time it felt a little immersive, but looking back, it's like you just have like a TV remote in your hand, and I don't know.
We didn't know any
But
better back then.
yeah, yeah. Well, you can't argue the Wii was great, and it's so good that like it's still relevant now. You know what I mean? Like what is something that's knocked it off its pedestal? Probably nothing. I mean, the Switch, but the Switch is a little different.
Yeah.
And that's what I kind of like about the Nintendo consoles is, I do feel like they have a new novelty with each one that they come out with, something that's kind of, totally different than your standard, Xbox and PlayStation where, you're just using a controller. Yeah, and I don't think there were any, like, other than the remotes breaking people's, like, noses and TVs, I don't think there were any, like, known hardware malfunctions with the Wii. I never had any issues with it whatsoever.
Yeah, other than the janky sensor bar, I was good to go.
Yeah.
That stupid thing. And I think what's funny is a lot of people didn't realize this, but the Wii was, like, basically a couple of consoles in one because you could plug in, and I actually think you could play GameCube games.
Yes.
But you could plug in GameCube controllers. There was a little like hatch. I don't remember if it was on the front or the back.
It's on the
and you
top.
pop it open. Yeah, it was like a door, right? You pop it open and you can plug in GameCube controllers. And I think you could actually put in GameCube discs, like the little ones. And I don't know. There might have been a space to put a cartridge too. I don't know if you could play. I might be kind of stretching this one. I don't know if there were Game Boy games you could put on there or not.
If there was, it would have been an expansion, I think.
Yeah, I think I'm kind of like
It sounds
embellishing
nuts.
there.
I didn't
yeah,
know
I
anything about
mean,
that.
A lot of value there. GameCube's an interesting console in and of itself, but those fucking little discs, I don't know. Why did they do that? I don't know. But,
Dude, my only memory with GameCube is I went camping with my family. I was probably like, I don't know, 12, 13 years old. And all I did, my friends brought a GameCube and had like a TV set up in the van that we used to drive down there. So instead
Hell
of like
yeah.
enjoying nature and like doing things outdoors while camping, we just sat in this van and played Super Smash Brothers on the GameCube. I think it was Brawl, Super Smash Brothers Brawl.
It would have
But-
been Melee on the game.
It was Melee. It was Melee. You're right. Yeah, we sat in that van and just played Super Smash Brothers.
That's so good.
Oh my god.
oh my god, good times. So, are there any other consoles? I think the only thing worth maybe touching on briefly is kind of like the COVID era with consoles. I think that's like the last like big thing to kind of discuss for this episode, and just the fact like if you wanted, I guess starting in 2020, if you wanted an Xbox Series X, or I guess at one point the Series S was also in a similar position, but if you wanted that or a PS5, it was like the first time I think in my lifetime I really had seen like crazy scalping for consoles. And I mean, you had unfortunate moms and dads and grandparents, aunts and uncles paying like $800 for a PlayStation around Christmas time, or $1,000 or more. Like you're paying basically double MSRP. And I don't know, did you guys do you own any of those consoles? Did you run into any of that, or kind of what's your take on that?
So, yes, I now have a PS5. I wasn't going to get one. I have had a PS1 through 4 just purely by happenstance, and I decided I'm not getting a 5. Then I changed my mind, and I absolutely could not find one for months. And I thought it was a lost cause until I got a invite in my email to place an order for one, and that was maybe a year ago. So that's even like post-COVID.
Yeah.
But it forever to find one.
And it's like kind of a crazy thought. Like, did you ever think you'd have to get invited to spend $500 or $600?
No, it didn't
You know what
make
I mean?
any
Like-
sense to me.
Like, let me
What an
like
honor.
beg you for me to spend my money.
Yeah,
I just
it's
always think that's crazy.
nuts. And like I understand the whole chip shortage thing, I understand, especially with Bitcoin mining just absolutely popping off back then too.
Sure.
Like, everything just domino effects, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
But
Gaming.
it was rough.
It was like a weird time where, like, you know, console gaming's always, in my opinion, been, you know, cheaper than PC gaming, so to speak, you know, obviously in terms of the, you know, cost of a console versus the cost of building a PC. But I mean, you were at a point where, like, both options were, like, not for, like, the average person. Like, you know, you got to pay almost $1,000 for a console, or like, you know, PC parts were crazy too.
Yep.
Like you said, not just with the shortage, but you know, crypto mining and all that. Like, it was nuts. So, that's part of it too, is I miss those days where, like, you could just walk into a store. Like I said, like with the PS2, like my parents took me after last day of school and roll into a Best Buy, and you just pick up the box. And then you're looking through that aisle, and then just like, there's so many games on the rack, and you're just like, what do I want? Obviously I want them all, but you know, what do I really want? And I just, that will never come back, I don't think.
Yeah.
Or it just won't ever have the same feeling. But yeah, I thought it was kind of worth touching on just how, you know, consoles now, it's like, you know, you lose a little bit of that just walking into the store and like, that's what you were there to buy. It's like, it's almost now you buy it out of opportunity. Like, oh, there's one here, I guess I should just buy it because I kind of want it, or I don't know, maybe we can sell it. But now you're seeing a lot of people where, like, there's people that are like behind the curve, and they're like, they still think that you can go and scalp these consoles. So they're like listing a PS5 for like $600. And I'm thinking to myself, I'm like, why would I buy your used PS5 right now for $600 when I can go buy a brand new one for $450 or $500, you know? And same thing with the Xboxes. But Ryan, I know you got a Series S, and that wasn't hard to get, was it? When you got it?
For a little bit, both consoles were hard to get. I feel like the S was obviously cheaper by a couple $100.
Can you run me through some of the model history? So it was Xbox, then 360, and then
Xbox One.
Yeah, I think I could
after
hit
that. I lost track.
So it's OG Xbox, Xbox 360. The 360 also had the Xbox 360 Elite, which was a black one, and I think it had a larger hard drive.
I think
and the controller was black too. I don't think it was smaller, but it was supposed to be like a different aesthetic and a little bit beefier in terms of storage.
Okay.
And then after the 360, we graduated to the Xbox One. Then within Xbox One, because we're still in the Xbox One, like,
support window
era. So there was the OG Xbox One. Then they had the Xbox One S, which was the white one. And that was basically like a slimmer, kind of, you know, more refreshed Xbox One. Then, follow me here, then we had the Xbox One X, which was the first 4K Xbox, right? It could do 4K at 60 frames per second. And it was basically like a premium. That's when they started doing the S versus the X. So you could get the S, which was like a little bit more of a base model, and then the X, which is the beefier, can do 4K. And then the current generation now, where you have the Xbox Series S and then the Series X. So they really...
What the fuck does the word series mean in any of that? That means nothing.
Awful naming. Awful naming.
A little bit of fluff.
And to be honest, I really just prefer the way that PlayStation does it, where they're like, this is the next PlayStation.
Yeah.
Right?
5.
Like, yeah. Then next one will be probably 6, or they might do a PlayStation 5 Pro, whatever.
Yeah,
Pro is
5
fine,
Pro,
but like
5 Slim, like they can.
But why are we using S and X, and why are we throwing in series? And it's confusing as hell. And you know, I can't tell if that's like intentional or what it is, but the naming scheme is absolute trash.
It's so,
but
yeah.
I don't know, but that's the rundown. So you kind of have to take notes. But
yeah, I was trying to figure out, like, you said that Ryan had one, and I'm like, I have no idea when in the timeline this is. Like,
yeah.
So right now, the so Ryan, you have the Series S. So that is like basically a little less storage, and it's supposed to be like good for 1440p gaming, kind of like in that middle ground there. And then correct me if I'm wrong, Ryan, but I think the Series X is supposed to be your 4K Xbox console. 4K. Now it can do 4K at what, like, I don't know. Is it advertising like 120 FPS? It's
advertising 120 frames, but there's like no games that run on 120. It's all just like steady 60 frames.
Yeah. Who needs that? Damn.
Yeah, it's like marketing. It's just buzzwords and shit, basically. But that's the breakdown, essentially.
Okay. Sorry I jumped in there.
No, you're good. The biggest difference is the storage. The biggest difference is the storage. I mean, Series X has a terabyte, and I'm so bad with like
the S has a 500 gig hard drive.
Okay.
Now,
is that
here's
half?
the thing that pisses me off with the S. Right. Yeah, terabyte is 1,000 gigabytes. The thing that pisses me off about the S is, so tell me how much that expansion card is, right, to increase your storage.
I don't want to admit it. No, it's
just
like,
say it.
It's like $200.
Okay, so the console's what? The console's
for
300?
How much memory are you getting?
For a terabyte.
Isn't that nuts? You can buy an SSD. You can buy a 2 terabyte SSD for less than that. No, because it's just Xbox. Like, it's Xbox marketed. Like, it's formatted for Xbox. Like, it is bullshit.
So I might as well have bought. I might like looking back. I probably
should have bought that.
I could have just waited for the Series X to become available, and then I would have paid maybe like an extra $100, everything considered.
Yeah.
And I would.
But what I don't get is, so how much was the Series S itself?
It's like, I think it was like $300.
All right, so 300, and then to upgrade the storage, right, is 60-some% of the cost of the console.
Yeah.
Which is at $200, so to speak.
But that's what I didn't double.
That's what I didn't understand is, not even equating it to like a PC component, just the fact that it's like, how, I don't understand the value there.
So
I guess they're just preying on the fact that it's like an afterthought. It's like, oh God, I just filled this whole thing up. Like I gotta, unless I buy this, I'm kind of screwed.
And there were different, there were other ones, like other memory expansion packs or whatever, that were not made by Xbox that were cheaper.
Yeah.
But I'm not gonna risk buying a third party storage device and not have it work.
I actually think the one that's branded by Xbox is, I think it's a Seagate. I think Seagate makes that.
Sure,
I would
Seagate. Yeah.
And the interesting thing is too, is I think it's a standard like SSD. Or I don't even know. Like, is it a hard like?
No, it's like
a spinning disc.
Pretty sure no, it's a standard SSD. I just plug it into the back of my console.
Yeah, I find
USB.
that just crazy what they're charging. You know what I mean? Like, and that's the only downside to consoles, I think, at times, is that sometimes like the hardware is like, it's like too proprietary, right? There needs to be a console made where you can literally open the thing up and just like you would a PC, swap parts as you see fit. But to the same point, I think the benefit of a console is the fact that, like, you know what you're getting, right? Every game is going to work out of the box, so to speak. Everybody is getting the same performance. You don't have this wide range of like, specs like you do in like the PC range. There's no tinkering involved, right? The game, you put it in or you start it up and it just works.
And
you know what you're getting. So yeah, it's portable. Exactly. And it's, it's got a lot of, great utility now. I mean, it's obviously not just gaming. I mean, you can do a lot of apps on there. So, I love consoles still. I'm struggling because I want to get a PlayStation, but it's like, I don't know if I can justify buying a PlayStation. Like, I just don't know if I have the time to, compete with, PC games and, whatever.
There's so many games though, especially now. Like, you could spend an hour, you could map out like a year or two of games you can play just with time and whatnot. With
just what's out at the moment, not even talking about upcoming releases. All right. Having said that, is there an upcoming console specific game, right, that any of us are particularly looking forward to.
No.
Yeah.
How about you?
I would say this, and I mean, obviously this is going to depend kind of when the episode airs, but, you know, I'm kind of thinking maybe Zelda?
Oh, Tears
Oh,
of
yeah,
the
there you
Kingdom.
go.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
mean, you know, again, not really a game that I have a lot of time for at the moment, but the portability of the Switch, again, another strong suit of Nintendo. They just find ways to put the game in your hand. It can be kind of like a bedtime game, right? Like, you know, as you get in bed and you're just kind of like, you know, put in an hour here, put in an hour there. So, I'm teetering. I didn't finish Breath of the Wild again because of time, but we'll see.
That's interesting. I just started Breath of the Wild for the first time, and that's exactly what I do. Like, before I go to bed, I put in, 20 minutes. That's it.
Yeah. It seems daunting because it's like, you know, a week goes by and you're like, I've actually progressed like 0.
Yeah.
You know, but I've had fun. So, you know, that exists. Ryan, anything that you could think of, console specific games that maybe or even like, you know, since your Xbox, maybe is there a Game Pass game you're looking forward to, or?
I mean, the only one that comes to mind is Starfield, because that's like that's going to be like hopefully the game that brings Xbox back into the fold, like back into the mainstream. Because right now, I mean, they've had misses on a lot of their big titles, big IPs that have come out over the last couple of years. So
yeah,
they're in desperate need
they
of
definitely
something great to come out.
they shit the bed with Redfall,
Yeah, well,
like big time,
yeah,
big time.
haven't played
It's
it,
a-
but
it's a-
I've read things.
It's a definite concern for Xbox, considering like the people are calling it like the Game Pass effect, where it's like you're almost getting like a bunch of really half-baked, broken games that are like watered down, and it's like, is it because people aren't paying for these games anymore? You know, they're going right to Game Pass like day one. Like, is it just use the marketing to draw in the Game Pass subscription, and then the actual game is just nothing? But I don't know. Could be an issue for another episode. But any other comments, guys, before we kind of wrap up this episode? I feel like we touched on a lot. I could go on forever about this.
Yeah, we could keep going for hours, I'm sure.
Yeah. Ryan, you got anything?
Shout out to Xbox 360 and their customizable faceplate. I had an Eagles one, and
I remember it
loved
fondly.
It was.
Yeah,
I do remember that.
and
Oh God, it was like glossy. It was kind of shiny, I think.
it was.
It started losing paint towards the end, didn't it?
Actually, funny enough, it's sitting in the trunk of my car. Like I'll send you guys a
That's
picture
probably
later.
where I've seen it the most recently. Then
Wait, the Xbox is, or
the
just
whole
the
the whole
faceplate?
Xbox. My mom was like, Ryan, take this and do whatever you want with it. So I have it, and I don't think I have all the wires to actually hook it up.
Oh well, you could easily go on like online and get like a cheap third-party set. You gotta hook that up. You can't let that
just
sit there.
Just to see the OG like opening screen title, like, and just hear that sound.
Oh God, I miss it. But yeah, I mean that's pretty much all I have for this episode. You guys all good?
yeah, I think so.
I'm good.
All right, Derick, you want to break us down here?
Yes, of course. So again, thank you so much for listening, watching, if that's applicable to you. Again, you can find us on socials. On Instagram, we are at 5 o'clock sweats. Twitter, we are at 5 o'clock sweats. YouTube and Spotify, 5 o'clock sweats. Kept it pretty straightforward for you. Anything else I'm forgetting?
No, we're good. Good. What's our send off, Ryan?
Oh, this
It's
is
5
juicy.
o'clock.
I can tell.
It's 5 o'clock somewhere. Keep that in mind. Always remember, it's 5 o'clock somewhere. Yeah, dude. Come summertime, that'll be real sweat, and I'll be glistening.
I have all of my windows open. It's
Yeah,
crazy
my
hot.
I'm not.
computer's getting pretty hot in here.
I'm not taking this for granted.
Wrap it in
This
a
weather.
towel. It'll be fine.
There you go. Overheat the already overheated device. It'll, what is it? Two negatives make a positive.
Yeah, every time.